Hi, today we're going to learn how to divide fractions. So I want to start by asking you to think through a problem. You can even try doing it with me. What is 1/2 divided by 1/4? And how do we find that answer? When I look at this problem, the first thing I want to know is what does that even mean if I'm dividing 1/2 by 1/4? Let's back up a step and look at what it means to divide any numbers. Let's use some whole numbers, some nice happy round numbers like 4 and 2. What happens if I divide 4 by 2? Well, what I'm really asking is how many groups of 2 are there in 4? Let's have a look. I have 4 circles and I want to group them in 2s. So I'm going to say 1, 2 here and 1, 2 here. And now you'll see I have 2 groups of 2, so I know that 4 divided by 2 equals 2. The difference when we divide with fractions is we don't have a whole number. Now we're asking 1/2, so we don't have that full beautiful circle, and we're dividing it by 1/4. We want to know how many 1/4s there are in 1/2. Let's start by looking at a picture of 1/2 maybe. How many 1/4s in 1/2? Well, here's our picture of 1/2. If I look there, I have the green part is the 1, and the whole square is the half. Now, in order to know what fourths are, we have to make fourths out of that picture. So I'm going to draw another line in, and now you'll see I have fourths. I have 4 equal sections. And you'll see that 2 of them are now green. So the section that was green here when we had 1/2, when we divide into fourths, is now 2. So 1/2 divided by 1/4 gives us 2. Do we see the way that that works? That's great, but what are we doing still? And how do we do that with numbers where we can't draw pictures? The key to understanding the operation of dividing by fractions is to know that when you divide by a fraction, what you're really doing is you're multiplying by the inverse. Let's see what I mean. So let's go back to 1/2. The first thing I'm going to do is keep the first fraction. I'm not going to change 1/2. That's definitely staying. I said we're going to divide that. I said we're going to multiply that 1/2 by the inverse of the second one. So I'm going to keep the first one. Then I'm going to multiply, change the sign here, and I'm going to multiply not by 1/4, but by the inverse, which means I have to flip these two around. The denominator becomes the numerator, and the numerator becomes the denominator. Flip for the inverse, and now you see I have a new problem, 1/2 times 4 over 1. Now we solve this like we would any multiplication problem, a fraction multiplication problem. We multiply across. 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 1 is 2. And we get the answer 4/2. And you say, but wait a minute, you told me that the answer was 2. Well, let's look at that. How is it that the answer is 4/2? Here I have 4/2 that you can look at. 1, 2, 3, 4. We agree that those are 4/2, right? But we also know that we can put those halves together and get the number 2. So you see 2 is 4/2. Let's try another one. In fact, this time let's try one where you write through it and think your way through it. I'm going to show you the problem right here, and then I'm going to ask you to pause the video to try to solve it. We have 2/3 divided by 4/5. And I'm going to remind you that we're going to keep, flip, change, and flip. Keep, change, and flip. See if you can do this problem. I'm going to take a pause. You can pause the video and keep this up on your screen. All right, we're back. So did you keep, change, and flip? Let's take a look. To solve this, we want to keep that first fraction, 2/3. The next step is we change the sign to a multiplication sign. And now we have to find the inverse of this fraction by flipping it. So 4/5 becomes 5/4. The next step is to start multiplying across. 2 times 5 gives us 10. 3 times 4 gives us 12. And so we have our answer. That's the way you divide by fractions. Thanks.